Long before the great empires of the galaxy rose to power, there were whispers of a species unlike any other. They were said to be fearless, clever, and ruthless when pushed to war. They were called humans. But to most civilizations, these stories were nothing more than myths, bedtime tales told by old captains around the fire. The archives of the galaxy mentioned them briefly, scattered in ancient records, but the details were always unclear. Some claimed humans once ruled vast stretches of space, while others said they were destroyed in wars long ago. No one knew the truth, and no one cared to find out. To the proud races of the galaxy, humans were nothing more than legends buried in time. For centuries, the younger species laughed at the idea. Humans. Ghosts and fairy tales, they said. Even the great scholars of the core worlds dismissed the subject, calling it fantasy. But not everyone laughed. The elder races, the ones who had seen thousands of years pass, remembered the warnings. In hushed voices, they spoke of the human rage, of their burning will, and of their endless hunger for survival. The younger civilizations ignored these warnings, thinking the old ones were simply trying to scare them. To most, humans were like dragons from children's stories, dangerous only in imagination. Then one day, everything began to change. On the edge of the Orion Belt, a listening station picked up something unusual. It was faint at first, a ripple in the black silence of space. The technicians thought it was just interference. But the signal grew stronger, steady, like a heartbeat. It was not random static. It was structured, intelligent. When the report reached the Planetary Council, the leaders dismissed it as nothing. After all, signals in deep space were common. But within weeks, other stations reported the same thing. A pattern was emerging. The unknown source was moving. Slowly, but with purpose. A fleet. At first, no one wanted to believe it. The council argued endlessly. Some claimed it was a migration fleet from a forgotten species. Others said it was a pirate armada, hiding its true numbers. But a few, very few, whispered a name. Humans. The word spread quickly in the shadows of government halls. Officials denied it. Academies mocked it. Yet fear began to rise among the common people. Tales from the ancient archives returned to life. The myths spoke of vast human armadas appearing without warning, crushing enemies in battles that rewrote the stars. The archives mentioned fleets so powerful that entire coalitions were forced to kneel. But they also spoke of humans vanishing, leaving nothing behind but fragments of stories. If the fleet truly belonged to them, then the galaxy was no longer safe. The unknown fleet continued its march across the void, ignoring hails, ignoring warnings. Every day, more ships were detected. Hundreds. Thousands. Their formation was perfect, their discipline absolute. Yet their design was unlike any ship in the known galaxy. Dark hulls, sharp edges, strange energy signatures. Whoever they were, they had technology no one had seen before. Panic began to grow. Scouts were sent to investigate, but none returned. They vanished, their signals cut off the moment they approached the fleet. Some said the ships were destroyed. Others believed the scouts were captured. Either way, silence was all that returned. In the Senate chambers of great empires, leaders raised their voices in anger. "It cannot be humans," they shouted. "Humans do not exist." But their words carried little comfort. Too many old stories matched what was now unfolding. Across distant worlds, fear turned into chaos. Citizens asked questions their leaders could not answer. Who was this fleet? What did they want? Why were they heading straight toward the heart of the galaxy? The elder races kept silent. They had seen this before, long ago, and they knew the truth that others refused to face. These were not pirates. These were not lost travelers. This was something far more dangerous. This was the return of the forgotten ones. One elder whispered to his council, "The myths are not myths. They are warnings. And now the warnings live again." But the galaxy did not want to listen. It wanted to believe in safety, in control. Yet safety was already gone. The fleet was growing nearer, its shadow spreading like a storm cloud over the stars. The signals were no longer faint. They roared across the frequencies, steady, relentless. The galaxy watched with dread as the truth could no longer be denied. The humans, the ones thought lost, the ones thought imaginary, were real. And they were coming back. Fear spread through the galaxy like fire in dry grass. The unknown fleet had moved closer, and every new report confirmed the same terrible truth. It was not a wandering group of explorers. It was not pirates hiding their identity. This was an organized armada, vast and unstoppable, heading directly toward the core worlds. For many governments, denial was no longer possible. Meetings grew heated in Senate halls and war councils. Leaders shouted at each other, desperate to explain the situation without admitting the unthinkable. "It cannot be humans," one leader insisted. "They are nothing but old stories." But his words trembled, for deep inside even he was not certain anymore. Every scan of the approaching fleet showed designs that matched descriptions found in fragments of ancient records. The shapes, the markings, the energy pulses, all hinted at a connection to the mythical humans. The galaxy's younger civilizations were the first to panic. Entire worlds demanded answers from their rulers. Citizens flooded the streets, shouting that their leaders had lied to them for centuries. The archives had always spoken of humans, yet the governments had called them myths. Now the evidence was moving steadily through space, growing larger every day. The older civilizations stayed quiet, their silence even more frightening than open fear. They had lived long enough to remember the whispers of a time when humans ruled. Some recalled battles told in secret, where human fleets crushed entire coalitions in days. They remembered how humans vanished afterward, leaving only ruins and silence. And now the same pattern seemed to be unfolding again. Scouts sent to observe the mysterious fleet still failed to return. Their signals blinked out the moment they drew close. This was no accident. The fleet wanted to stay hidden until it was ready to be seen. Those who studied the reports noticed something even more disturbing. The fleet was growing. Every week, new ships appeared within its formation, as if built in silence or gathered from hidden strongholds. By now, the number of vessels was beyond imagination. Entire star systems could be conquered with such a force. No one knew how the humans had built such power, nor where they had been all this time. Rumors spread faster than truth. Some said the humans had hidden in dark regions of space, preparing for centuries. Others whispered they had allied with machines or discovered weapons from a forgotten age. A few claimed the humans had never left at all. They had been watching, waiting for the galaxy to grow weak. In the shadows of taverns and markets, common people spoke in fearful tones. "The myths are waking," they said. "The monsters from old stories are real." And yet, there was something more dangerous than fear: arrogance. Certain leaders, proud of their mighty fleets, laughed at the idea that humans could challenge them. They declared that their navies were stronger, their weapons more advanced. But even their own generals looked uneasy. Technology could not explain the reports. The human ships were not just strong. They were strange. Their weapons did not match any known design. Their energy signatures suggested power sources far beyond what the core worlds possessed. And their discipline was terrifying. 1,000 ships moved as if they were one. No hesitation. No weakness. Just perfect silence and order. A coalition of worlds attempted to form a plan. They argued about defenses, about sending ambassadors, about preparing for war. But the galaxy was not united. Old rivalries flared. Some races wanted to strike first, to prove strength. Others wanted to beg for peace before it was too late. In their pride, they could not see the truth. The humans did not come to negotiate. They came with purpose. One empire, desperate to prove its might, sent a full battle fleet to intercept. 50 warships, armed with the most advanced weapons of their kind, moved to block the mysterious armada. For a moment, the galaxy watched with hope. Perhaps this would be the end of the fear. Perhaps the humans would be defeated, and the myths would die once more. But when the two forces met, hope shattered. The battle lasted less than an hour. The human fleet did not fire first. They waited, silent, until the alien ships attacked. Beams and missiles filled the void, lighting up the stars. Yet the humans moved with unnatural precision. Their shields absorbed the fire. Their counterattack was swift, merciless, and exact. Ship after ship fell, systems disabled with a single shot. Not destroyed, but crippled, as if to send a message. When the battle was over, the proud alien fleet drifted in silence, powerless, their crews alive but humiliated. The human armada simply passed through, unharmed, unchallenged, and unstoppable. The galaxy trembled at the news. If 50 warships could be defeated so easily, what hope did anyone have? Fear became despair. The myth was real. The humans were back, and they were stronger than ever. In the halls of power, leaders whispered questions no one could answer. Why had the humans returned now? What was their goal? And worst of all, what would happen when the armada finally reached the heart of the galaxy? The galaxy held its breath as the human fleet pushed deeper into known space. By now, there was no denying who they were. The defeat of the alien battle group had made it clear. The myths were alive. The humans had returned. Every government scrambled to decide how to respond. Some wanted to hide, hoping the storm would pass them by. Others demanded contact, insisting that the humans could be reasoned with. A few, more fearful, begged to surrender before the first human guns fired. Yet no one truly knew what the humans wanted. They had not spoken, they had not explained, and they had not destroyed. They had simply advanced, leaving silence in their wake. Finally, one of the great empires chose to act. The Varkesh Dominion, proud and ancient, believed they could control the situation. They sent their strongest cruiser, a warship named the Iron Fang, to intercept the approaching armada. The galaxy watched through broadcasts and spy relays. Billions of eyes followed every moment, waiting to see what the humans would do when faced directly. The Iron Fang approached slowly, its weapons powered but not armed. On every channel, the Varkesh commander announced that he came in peace. His voice shook as he spoke, though he tried to hide it. He asked the fleet to identify itself. At first, there was nothing but static. The human armada floated in perfect silence, their countless ships gleaming black against the stars. Then, without warning, a single transmission cut across the galaxy. It was not a long speech. It was not a negotiation. Just two words, cold and heavy, spoken in a language every species could understand. We remember. The words echoed across the channels, repeated again and again until even the most distant worlds heard them. Entire populations froze in fear. What did the humans remember? Old wars? Old betrayals? Old enemies? The silence that followed was worse than any threat. The Varkesh commander tried again, pleading for answers, but his ship's signals were blocked. The human fleet moved forward, passing the Iron Fang without a single shot. Yet the message was clear. They were not here to talk. They were here with purpose, and they had not forgotten the past. Panic swept through the galaxy. Leaders demanded explanations. Historians searched frantically through ancient archives, desperate to understand what the humans meant. Old texts spoke of battles where humans were betrayed by alliances they had once saved. Other stories told of coalitions that had feared human power and united to drive them out. None of it was certain, but all of it pointed to the same truth. The humans carried old memories of war, and now they had returned to settle those debts. As the fleet advanced, smaller ships broke formation, spreading into nearby systems. They did not attack the planets they passed, but they scanned them thoroughly, mapping every detail. Some worlds tried to resist. Defense fleets rose up, only to be disabled without a fight. The humans never destroyed them, never killed their crews. They left the ships powerless, drifting like toys, a warning to anyone who dared resist. The galaxy's strongest warlords, who had once laughed at the idea of humans, now stood in silence. Their armies were nothing compared to this force. And still, the humans had not revealed their true goal. In the Senate halls of the core worlds, arguments turned into chaos. Some leaders demanded immediate surrender to avoid destruction. Others shouted that they must prepare for total war. The elder races gave no advice, their silence a sign that they already knew what was coming. Among the common people, rumors grew darker. Some said the humans were building an empire greater than ever before. Others claimed they would burn every world to ash. The uncertainty was unbearable. Fear fed on itself, and despair spread like poison. Days later, another contact was made. This time it was not a single warship, but a united council of 5 empires. They sent a massive fleet to stand in the path of the humans, not to fight but to talk. The galaxy watched again, praying for peace. The 2 armadas faced each other in the void. For hours there was silence, neither side making a move. Finally, a single human ship broke formation and approached the council fleet. Its design was unlike anything seen before, sleek, dark, glowing with strange light. When it stopped, a transmission began. A figure appeared on every screen, a human dressed in armor that seemed forged from shadows. His eyes were cold, his voice deeper than the void. "We remember the betrayal," he said. "We remember the fire. We remember the promise broken." The council demanded to know what betrayal he spoke of, but the human only shook his head. "Your ancestors knew. You have forgotten. We have not." With that, the transmission ended. The human ship returned to the fleet, and the armada turned once more toward the core. No demands were given. No explanation offered. Only the chilling reminder that the humans carried a memory no one else understood. Across the galaxy, billions realized the same terrible truth. This was not the beginning of peace. This was the beginning of something much darker. The humans had spoken at last, and their message was simple. They had not forgotten, and they would not forgive. The galaxy could no longer deny the truth. The humans had returned, and their armada grew stronger with each passing day. But still, many leaders clung to hope. They told their people that the humans were nothing but an old species, perhaps dangerous once, but surely weaker now against the modern might of the galaxy. They promised that advanced technology, stronger fleets, and united defenses would crush the invaders if war came. These promises did not last long. The proof arrived when the humans decided to show their power. It began in the Dravel system, where a proud coalition of 3 empires had gathered their fleets. Hundreds of warships formed a wall around their capital world, engines burning bright, weapons armed, shields raised. They wanted to make a statement to the galaxy. They wanted to prove that humans were not unstoppable. As the human armada entered the system, silence fell. Billions across the galaxy tuned into the broadcasts, watching as history unfolded. The alien fleets stood ready, their commanders speaking confidently about victory. But deep down, everyone watching felt the same cold fear. The humans moved with precision, their countless ships sliding into formation like the pieces of a machine. Their hulls gleamed black, their strange energy fields shimmering with light that seemed alive. The alien commanders hailed them, warning that any further advance would be seen as war. The humans gave no answer. Instead, one of their ships broke formation. It was smaller than the alien dreadnoughts, yet its presence felt heavier, more dangerous. Slowly, it glided forward, stopping just outside the defense line. For a moment, there was silence, then a single shot fired. The beam was thin, almost invisible, but its effect was terrifying. The largest alien dreadnought, a warship 3 kilometers long, shuddered as if struck by a storm. Its shields collapsed instantly, its engines failed, and in seconds the mighty ship drifted powerless through the void. There was no explosion, no destruction. The humans had disabled it with surgical precision. Gasps spread across the galaxy as the feed showed the great dreadnought spinning helplessly, its weapons useless. One shot. One ship. And the strongest vessel of the coalition was nothing but dead metal. The alien commanders panicked. Some ordered fire, others screamed for retreat. Missiles, lasers, plasma beams, all lit up the darkness as the fleets unleashed their fury. Yet the human formation moved as if it had rehearsed this moment for centuries. Their shields absorbed the attacks with ease, their ships twisting and sliding in patterns too perfect for any organic fleet. When they struck back, they did not destroy. They disabled, again and again, as if to prove a point. Battleships lost engines, cruisers lost weapons, carriers fell silent, all without being destroyed. Within an hour, the proud coalition fleet was nothing but drifting wreckage, their crews alive but helpless. The humans had not come to slaughter. They had come to show the galaxy what power really looked like. Panic tore through the galaxy. If the humans could disable entire fleets with such ease, then no empire was safe. Every defense, every weapon, every strategy seemed meaningless before this power. Across the core worlds, people began to whisper that the humans were not just a species, they were a force of nature, unstoppable and beyond understanding. The question grew louder: why were they sparing lives? Why not destroy those who resisted? Some believed it was mercy. Others believed it was cruelty, leaving survivors to spread tales of fear. And perhaps that was the point. The humans wanted the galaxy to know they could kill, but chose not to. They wanted every empire to understand that survival was not in their own hands, it was in human hands. In the halls of power, leaders grew desperate. Secret meetings were held, alliances proposed, weapons researched in haste. But deep down, they all knew the truth. No matter what they built, no matter how many ships they gathered, they could not match what had returned from the shadows. The humans were beyond them, operating on a level no one could match. And worse, they had not revealed their true strength. What had been shown in the Dravel system was only a taste, a glimpse of what they could do. The galaxy trembled at the thought of what would happen if the humans decided to unleash their full fury. On distant worlds, where ancient archives still held fragments of forgotten history, scholars whispered in horror. The legends had always said that humans never fought to win battles. They fought to end wars. If that was true, then the galaxy was standing at the edge of something far greater than a conflict. It was standing at the beginning of a storm that could wipe away everything that had been built. The power of humanity was not simply in ships or weapons. It was in their will, their unity, their ability to bend the galaxy to their purpose. And now, that purpose remained hidden, waiting to be revealed. The galaxy had seen enough to understand one truth: if the humans chose to rule, no one could stop them. The galaxy was no longer laughing. No one called the humans a myth anymore. The display in the Dravel system had silenced every skeptic. Entire fleets had been crippled in less than an hour without a single human loss, without even a single ship destroyed. The message was clear: the humans were not only real, they were unstoppable. Yet the most terrifying part was not their power, but their silence. They still had not explained why they had returned, what they wanted, or how far they intended to go. Governments demanded answers, citizens demanded protection, and generals demanded plans, but no one had anything to offer. Then, at last, the humans spoke. It began with a broadcast. No one could trace where it came from, but every world received it at the same time. From the smallest outpost to the richest core world, every screen, every communicator, every signal was suddenly taken over. The image was dark at first, then a figure appeared. A human stood tall, dressed in armor that seemed both ancient and advanced, glowing faintly with strange light. His face was stern, his eyes cold and sharp. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but it carried across the stars like thunder. "We left long ago," he said, "but we did not vanish. We watched. We waited." The words sent shivers across billions of beings. The human continued, his voice steady, his gaze unblinking. "The galaxy grew proud. You forgot us. You thought yourselves safe. You thought yourselves powerful. But you built your empires on sand, and now the storm has come." He paused, letting the silence stretch, letting fear grow in every listener's heart. Then he said the words no one wanted to hear. "We remember the betrayal." Across the galaxy, confusion and terror spread. What betrayal? What ancient wound did the humans speak of? Historians searched records, but so much had been lost or hidden. Some whispered of coalitions that once united against humans, afraid of their strength. Others claimed that allies had turned on them in the middle of war, stabbing them in the back to save themselves. Whatever the truth was, the humans had not forgotten it. The human leader's voice grew harsher. We bled for this galaxy. We fought enemies no other dared face. We kept the darkness from your gates, and how were we repaid? With treachery. With lies. With war against our own. His eyes seemed to burn as he spoke the next words. You thought you destroyed us. You thought you erased us from history. But you failed. We endured. We rebuilt. And now, we return. Billions across the galaxy listened in horror. Some wept, some trembled, and some shouted in denial, but all of them felt the same truth pressing on their hearts. The humans had not come back by chance. They had come with purpose, with a mission born from old wounds that had never healed. The human leader raised his hand, and the signal showed images of their armada, countless ships stretching farther than the eye could see. This is our answer to betrayal. This is our proof. We are no longer a whisper, no longer a myth. We are the storm that will break the galaxy. His words echoed as the feed cut off, leaving silence across every world. For a long time, no one moved, no one spoke. Then chaos erupted. In government halls, leaders shouted at each other, accusing their ancestors, accusing their rivals, accusing anyone but themselves. In the streets, ordinary people cried out in panic, asking what the humans would do next, begging for protection that their leaders could not provide. Across the fleets of the galaxy, soldiers who had once mocked the myth now looked to the stars in fear, knowing that if the humans came for them, there was nothing they could do. The elder races said nothing, but their silence spoke louder than words. They had known. They had always known. They had warned, but no one had listened. And now the warnings had become reality. The humans had returned not as wanderers, not as allies, but as judges carrying the memory of betrayal. But there was something more unsettling than fear. Some species, some outcasts and rebels, began to cheer. To them, the humans were not monsters but saviors, beings who had returned to shatter the arrogant empires that had ruled for too long. Whispers spread among the oppressed, the enslaved, the forgotten. Perhaps the age of humans would bring justice, or at least revenge. But for the rulers of the galaxy, there was no such hope. They saw only doom. The human fleet kept advancing, unstoppable, unchallenged, as if nothing could stand in its path. The revelation had come. The humans were back, and they had not forgiven the past. Every empire now faced the same question. Would they fight the storm and be swept away, or bow before the myth reborn? The galaxy stood on the edge of an answer, trembling as the shadow of humanity stretched across the stars. The galaxy had heard the revelation, but no one was prepared for what followed. The humans no longer hid their purpose. Their fleets pressed deeper into core space, their ships blotting out the stars as they arrived system after system. Entire governments collapsed before they even arrived, surrendering in panic, hoping to save themselves from destruction. But surrender was not what the humans wanted. They demanded something far greater. It began with another broadcast, this time not from a single leader but from the entire human high command. The image showed a great hall, walls of steel and light, filled with armored figures standing like statues. Their leader's voice boomed once again, steady and merciless. The time of choice has come. Stand with us, or stand against us. There will be no middle ground. These words spread terror across the stars. For the first time, the galaxy understood that the humans were not simply returning to punish, they were returning to rule. Some empires broke instantly, swearing loyalty in hopes of survival. They lowered their banners and raised the human crest, willing to trade freedom for life. Others, more proud, declared they would never kneel, no matter the cost. Their leaders raised their voices in defiance, calling for unity, calling for war. Across the galaxy, lines were drawn. Yet fear hung heavy, for even those who shouted for resistance knew the truth. The humans had already proved they could not be stopped. Still, hope is stubborn, and the proud empires chose to fight. The first great resistance fleet formed near the Miros cluster, thousands of ships from dozens of species united together, their banners shining bright. They swore this would be the battle that saved the galaxy, the moment they proved that even the humans could bleed. The galaxy watched once again as the fleets met. The human armada appeared like a wall of shadow, endless and cold. The resistance opened fire first, thousands of beams and missiles streaking across the void. The stars lit up like fire, explosions painting the darkness. For a heartbeat, there was hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had a chance. But the hope died quickly. The human fleet moved like a living creature, shifting and folding with impossible precision. Their shields flared, their weapons burned, and the resistance fleet began to fall apart. One by one, proud warships lost engines, lost weapons, lost hope. Within hours, the resistance was broken, its ships drifting wrecked and helpless, just like those before them. The humans had crushed the strongest defense the galaxy could offer, and they had done it without mercy, but again without slaughter. They had left survivors. Survivors who would tell the story. Survivors who would carry fear back to their homes. The message was clear: resistance was not only futile, it was foolish. Still, the humans were not finished. Their leader appeared once more, his image filling the skies of 100 worlds. His words were not shouted but spoken calmly, almost softly, yet every syllable struck harder than thunder. The age of humans begins again. The galaxy will not be as it was. We will shape it anew, stronger, united under one banner. Our banner. Entire populations dropped to their knees in fear. Some prayed to their gods. Others begged their leaders for salvation. But there was no salvation. The choice had been made long ago, when the ancestors betrayed the humans. Now, their descendants would pay the price. The humans gave their final warning. Those who stand with us will share in our strength. Those who stand against us will fall. Choose wisely, for your time is short. With that, the broadcast ended, and the human fleet fired its first true volley of destruction. A single colony world that had declared defiance was targeted. In less than a minute, its defenses were gone, its cities burning under the fire of human weapons. The galaxy watched in horror as millions cried out, their voices cut off by silence. This was not a demonstration. This was judgment. The survivors screamed in terror, and the rest of the galaxy understood what awaited them if they resisted again. The humans had spared fleets before. They had spared lives. But now, they had shown what would happen when mercy was rejected. Panic swept through every empire. Many who had sworn defiance rushed to change their words, swearing loyalty before it was too late. Others, too proud, prepared for death, knowing they could not stand. And so the galaxy split in two, those who knelt and those who burned. The legend had become reality, and the myth had become a storm. The humans had returned, not as forgotten wanderers, not as ghosts of history, but as conquerors. The galaxy that once mocked their name now trembled beneath it. And as the human fleet advanced, their shadows stretching across the stars, one truth became clear. The myths had never been just stories. They had always been warnings. And now the warnings had come true. The age of humanity had begun once more, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same.